Be attentive to this Kriya for a moment, as long as it takes. We start with integrity, very base of the spine. It gives birth to life as we rise up the spine. And the life gives an abundance, shalom. And in that abundance, in that shalom, there is great well-being of the heart. From which arises praise of God, which is the gateway into communion with God in heaven, the heavenly host, always in its presence. We come down again from the head. Back to the mouth, if you like, the throat, which now sings praise. Sings thankfulness. Now we sing praise, do we? We sing thankfulness. There's an eternal gratitude. We sing thankfulness. Praise on the way up, thankfulness on the way down. And down to the heart, we love in kindness now. We give love. Before we felt it, we felt love in great well-being as we came up. But now we give loving kindness. We give out, you see, just as we give thanks. We give love and kindness. And this gives a great peace, the shalom in the stomach. In that great peace, is the utter creativity of God. We give life, you see. And in that giving, we come down to the base of the spine, the bedrock being. The integrity is to know what being is. Right, that's the full Kriya. Imagine the in-breath, the spirit coming in, taking you all the way up the spine, holding it in communion in heaven, and then giving back to creation. Gratitude, seeing thankfulness, you see, for love, loving care of the heart, the peace of the shalom of the stomach, the fullness, the joy to life, which results in the absolute being of all. And then it's that integrity which starts the next round. From the integrity at the base, we come up to giving, receiving life, desire. See, from this integrity arises desire, life. And that life has a great abundance, a great shalom, a great well-being, a great newness. The abundance of life. That's what the stomach's about. You come up again to the heart. Tremendous well-being of love is felt in the heart. Come up higher. Praise, praise to God. Praise. Praise pours out of our mouth. And we enter heaven, the communion with God and the heavenly host. Our mind, our understanding is renewed. Life eternal. And we return, we sing thankfulness. To others we give thanks, we have them giving thanks, we give thanks for them, for all the goodness. We give, coming down to the heart, love, caring, loving kindness. We give out from who we are, you see, what we've found us to be in this thankfulness. And that giving is a tremendous peace to all creation. They receive of our giving. They have an abundance, peace. Striving ceases. In that peace is found joy. They can now experience the joy of all the creation. which gives them that overwhelming sense of being. Which is the integrity of God in creation. And they go into the next round, you see, from which arises desire, life. From that abundance of life in the stomach, the shalom, arises well-being of love, the well-being in the heart of love. And from that incredible well-being, we sing the praises of all that we are loving. And that brings us into communion, to the crown. The crown is that which is the unmanifest. If you like, the before creation from the creation's point of view, the eternal. The unnameable, from which when we return, we give great gratitude and thanks. We sing thankfulness to the world. That thankfulness makes them aware of the great loving kindness of God. And therefore, the great plenty, the amazing provision and peace that they can experience. And in this peace, they find absolute joy. Joy. And from the joy, they have this immense well-being, of consciousness of all. Which is the integrity of God, creation itself. From which arises desire, life, in incredible abundance. The stomach, absolute shalom, provision of all. Immense well-being in the heart. We feel the love of God. We sing His praise. We enter communion. When we return, we give thanks. Give thanks. We shout out thanks to the world. And the world becomes aware of the wonderful provision of creation. And in that awareness comes a great peace upon them, which we give, you see. And in that peace, the fullness of life is experienced, overwhelming joy. And beyond that joy, is the utter consciousness the unchanging integrity of God, from which arises tremendous desire. As we rise again, you see, life itself, the fullness of creating, is experienced in the stomach. And the well-being of the love overcomes the heart. We fall in love. We sing praises. This love causes us to see everything good. We praise everything. We assent. We are so accepting. Which opens the doorway of heaven. We have communion with God. And from this fellowship, as we return, we now know the fellowship of the world. We give thanks. We communicate the fellowship by thanking God and everyone for all. They feel the goodness. They feel the fulfillment in their stomach, you see. You give peace. And from that peace, they can experience the joy of being. And from that being, they have the consciousness of being. That incredible integrity of God, of creation, which causes overwhelming desire to rise in them. They create. They have life. The abundance of life is felt in the shalom. They feel the love. They sing the praise. They enter heaven. They return to give thanks. Give love, loving kindness. We create. You see, the joy is felt. We give joy. We give joy. They receive that overwhelming awareness, the integrity of creation. Back up again. There's a continual round of Kriya, you see. It's a life cycle. It's a breath. It's an entire lifetime. And each life you give it will become better and better. You miss the point of reincarnation. Reincarnation is not some something beyond your experience. You reincarnate every breath. Every breath is different in its creativity, in its cycle, rather. It's as if, well, it is as, not just if, it is actually an entire life, and the gain from such. How many breaths do you take in a lifetime? Well, that which is necessary to come to glory. To finish, to graduate from the school of change and uncertainty and cycles to the eternal of being. The eternal of being is being part of the host of heaven. You are an eternal, distinct person, like God and with God and all those who are with God. In fact, with all the dears, of course, but how many breaths are there in a lifetime? Let's think on that just for a moment for fun, shall we? If I take 30 seconds over a breath, might be more, might be less, but let us say it tends to level out at that, at least for the duration of some while. And that's 2 breaths a minute. So 60 minutes in an hour, there's 120 an hour, let's say 100, shall we, for ease of calculation. 100 an hour, 1200 every hours of the day, or 24, so 50, 100, so 5,000, that's more than that, isn't it? That's the beginning. There's 2 to the minute, there's 100, say, to the hour, and there are 24 hundreds, 2,400 breaths a day. Say 2005, shall we? How many days in a week? Well, there's 365 days in a year. So divide it by 4, 3, 6, 5, 400 divided by 4 is 100. 100,000 breaths a year. 70 years. Seven billion breaths in a lifetime. Is that right? I can work it out. Let me use my calculator a bit. Hang on, I'll do it exactly, shall I? Well, it won't be exactly because each breath varies in time and so on. It's not straightforward, but we tried to make it even, but at times we have even short breaths and other times even long taking breaths. Okay, I'll pause now. Right, well, it seems to actually turn out to be about 70 million if you have a lifespan of 70 years. So imagine you're active of that. 6 of those 7 days. 6 decades, and the 7th decade is rest. 6 days, and so 6 days would be 6 million. 6 million lives. Roughly. And then you rest. The 7th day. So the other million breaths you don't take. You just rest. Let me revise this, review this recording. Now look, the Kriya practice is the very essence of life cycle and creativity. Each Kriya is different. As I listened to the first one, and I didn't get much further than listening to the first one going up, it occurs to me, I would now put it differently. I would say that from the great feeling of being loved arises gratitude. I would put the gratitude in there, and it's the gratitude that leads you into this communion that you didn't expect, which is heaven. And from that transformation, when you return, as you go down, the mouth now sings the praise of God, because you realize you've had experience now of God, not just the great abundance and provision, the shalom of living. Do you see, as you come down, you're full of the praises of God to others, and they receive this praise. They hear it, and their mind is drawn to that which is good, you see. They start to feel your loving kindness, your love pouring out to them from your heart. They're blessed, you see. The blessing is the great peace that they feel. They've become aware of the goodness of God. Do you see? You have given life. If you see, we're going right down now. You've given life to the world around you. You're sent, you see. Jesus sends you from this fellowship in heaven. Sends you to tell the world about thankfulness for all the goodness of God. To tell the world about God, praises Him, that His being is blessing them so much. They feel the peace, and in that peace is the experience of the joy of life. Joy. Joy from the knowing of God. That joy, that peace, is the immense sense of the integrity. See, they become aware of all the goodness. They have this consciousness. They somehow know the integrity of God. You see, you've given life. You have given God to others. And you breathe in again. So the breath in is you receive, and the breath out is as you give. But each cycle, and me just giving that explanation, is another sort of kriya, isn't it? Another circle, another cycle, explaining it to you. You can see it in the explanation, so that you know your kriya breathing. It's a spiritual breathing. We think of it in terms of breath, and we tie it to the breath. But when the breath vanishes, the kriya can still somehow continue in an absolute stable being of the communion of God with all that is. let me put that much better, another attempt of the oneness of the unmanifest with the manifest, with the God that is uncreated, with all that he creates. It's the endless consummation, the marriage. Something like that. Each breath, each life cycle is a parallel. Practice of breath that transforms you from the transitory to the eternal. It's something like that. May the Holy Spirit breathe the understanding and the fullness of this being into yourself. And we know we receive that prayer is answered before we make it. And that even to give means greater blessing to the giver than even what they give. And that life is, you see, is giving to creation. God is manifest, is living in the giving from his being to his children, the creation, to his eternally young family that bring into being the wonderful adults of heaven. You're sent to be part of that creativity. That's why at conception, when things are conceived, the person is conceived into a being. All heaven is present. All the host of heaven is present in the consummation, in the conception. That's why you feel this overwhelming zenith of joy, pleasure, well-being when you actually reach climax in making love. Do I speak literally, or do I speak in parallels? You will come to know. You come to know all things. For we are not servants, we are children of God. He tells us all that he does. We are friends, the eternal friends with God and each other. We are in eternity the host of heaven. And this experience of life in the material is anchoring that eternity, which is eternity into the future, the past and the present. Whatever that means, which we won't know. until we are finished here, until we graduate. Bless you. Lord bless you and keep you. And of course he does. Thank you, Heavenly Father. Thank you, Dad. Wonderful one. Thank you, Dad. The practice of the Kriya gives ever-increasing insight, understanding, receiving, well-being, spirituality, if you like, whatever you call it. You know, it dawns on you that there's a parallel with the plant. It's in the earth, the solidness, what you might take as the waste products laying on top of the planet, the manure, the compost. But from it springs life. You can grow plants. You know, if it's vegetables or trees, or if it's the lotus flower coming out the mud, you know. Something beautiful, life. It's an incredible abundance of sugar. Something to do with the blessings of life receiving the sunlight, the spirit from above, the light. When it receives the light, there's life being born in the mud, in the earth, in the ground, in the solid substance of matter that God has created. And you saw as chaos, and well, what do you do with that? It's just earth, isn't it? But the earth brings forth its abundance. When the light shines on it, the daylight, the sunlight, the warmth, the energy, God breathes into it and it becomes a living, and up comes this, whoa, plant, stem, leaves, roots going out, I mean, abundance of sugar, food, sugar, the energy of life in the physical, energy, sugar, from the amazing, sunlight on chlorophyll, producing sugars, you know. And beauty, look at the flowers it gives, beauty. Incredible sense of well-being, beauty and loveliness. And what does that beauty and loveliness do? Well, it causes you to sing for joy. It attracts the bees, the ones that bring the pollen. But we're talking of life now. What does life blossom into? Well, there's this amazing transformation that happens in the gratitude or the praise of God. I'm not sure which one it is as you go up, as you can see, that results in this transformation, translation, transcendence into heavenly communion. You see, the seed has been formed. Come back with life. And the praise of God from the experience of heaven allows the seed to fall down to the ground. The praise of God is the seed breaking from the plant, from its creator, the plant, down towards the soil that it might give life. The way down is experience the well-being of the creation, from review of the praise, of course. That heartfelt response drops into a peace of well-being. And that peace of well-being is experience the fullness of life, consciousness of life, the joy, all that is. The is the incredible, tangible substance somehow of the creation you're in. Do you see you've entered the eternalness of the being of what God has created? See, the universe of the transitory is eternal. An eternal basket, if you like, of transitory things. The eternal goes on forever. The universe goes on, that's called the birthplace of young. This family is ever growing. The seed falls into the ground. It's embraced by the integrity of God. And that covering of God, the soil, the darkness, the warmth, is the womb from which you thought was chaos and mud and goodness knows what. It's the womb from which the new life springs out. So God continually creates new life into the eternal. So I've just gone through another Kriya, haven't I? In thought, I mean. Do you see it's all in parables, parallels? And each time you go through the cycle in so many different dimensions and ways, well, you practice the liyfcreea, one of the many cycles, the 6 billion or so necessary to come to graduation. And the Christian message is quite simply a way of saying there are shortcuts. Because God is infinitely powerful and infinitely great, you can shortcut the entire process now by receiving God into your life. By practicing thankfulness, which is not a particular Kriya cycle. It's an ongoing, eternal consummation, thankfulness, of life-giving experience that is so overwhelmingly a union with God that this whole process of Kriya, well, is bypassed really. It's the natural way. Kriya is the hard way. Kriya is the 6 million incarnations necessary to receive enlightenment. It become the pedestrian way. Whereas, and I'm still in parallels, you do realize that, don't you? The way of thankfulness is God's gift to you. So it can all be given now, if you're willing to hear. You don't need Kriya. You only need Kriya if you don't receive the gift of God, but would rather do it your own way. I see. Why did you do that, Lord? Well, you'll find out in the fullness of time. Bless you. Thank you, Dad.